What's up everyone, I'm FrancheskaFit and today I'm going cycling. So even if you're not going cycling, this is going to be a great full body mobility morning routine. So let's get it started. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some awareness to my pelvis, and we're going to start with some super gentle exercises just to get a little bit more body awareness activated, alright? So we're going to start with pelvic tilts, super gentle like I said. I'm going to bring my feet forward, have a soft bend in the knees, and then I'm going to imagine that a string is pulling me from the top of my head. And we're going to try to keep that visualization the entire time. So visualize that a string is pulling you from the top of your head, and now we're just going to tilt only just our pelvis. So you're going to feel a little bit of low back motion, but see if you can isolate the pelvis while keeping the knees soft, just tucking the hips back and forward. And I love starting any day, any movement practice with some pelvic awareness, because I know a lot of us, that's like one of our, you call it like a linchpin if you want, or like a weak point, or an area that we have a hard time connecting with. So I know my pelvis is a stubborn area for me. So just back and forward, nothing crazy. And now we're gonna do a pelvic circle. So I'm gonna bring one hip up, back, other one up, and forward. And if you're someone that carries a lot of tension in their spine, just doing these gentle movements every day, you start realizing that just mobilizing the pelvis, you'll feel some stuff up the chain. So I feel a lot of stuff in my low back, even up into my mid upper back, just by moving the pelvis. All right, so let's get a little bit more dynamic so we don't have too much time. So we want to make sure we're getting our blood flowing quickly. So we're going to go into a swan dive. So on this swan dive, I want y'all to imagine lengthening through the spine, and then we're going to utilize that pelvic awareness so that we can tilt the hips back and lengthen through our posterior chain. So lengthening through the calves, hamstrings, glutes, everything, right? So I want y'all to think length. So I'm going to bring my hands overhead, and then as I swan dive, my arms are going to come out to the side. So I'm swan diving, keeping my eyes gaze forward so I can lengthen through the spine. And then we're going to round at the bottom, drive the knees forward, and roll up. Ooh, get a nice deep stretch on the back of the legs. All right, let's come onto the ground and let's get a little bit dynamic with the shoulders. So we're gonna go into some protraction and retraction of the shoulders. So really trying to push the floor, push the earth away from you, and lock out those elbows as much as you can. And then with the elbows locked, see if you can pull the shoulders back. So locking the elbows here is gonna keep us from compensating. You're gonna feel the elbows wanting to give. So see if you can really isolate the shoulders. All right, so that was just isolated retraction and protraction of the shoulders, our shoulder blade. Now we're gonna do more retraction and protraction of the T-spine. So we're gonna exaggerate that movement and bring our mid back into that movement. So same thing, elbows are gonna be straight, except we're gonna push all the way up through that mid back. I gotta pop on that last one. All right, let's get into just a little bit of shin boxes, and then we'll get a little bit more hip work in that. So I'm gonna start with both of my knees on the right. You can use the hands if you like to help posture up. Always suggest the hands. Oof. All right, and then I'm gonna try to distribute both the weight evenly on the hips here. You might feel that one hip, you can only put like 40% of your weight on it, and that's okay. See if every rep, little by little, you're just slightly adding more pressure on there, but not going into deep discomfort. still a little bit of discomfort, it's okay. Keeping the abs tight, same thing, lengthening through the spine, and I'm actively visualizing and trying to push my knees and my feet into the floor. This is one of my favorite underrated exercises. Like I'll be 90 doing this same workout because it's ageless and timeless. All right, now we're gonna go into a tripod reach from the shin box. So with my left hand, so from to my left hand's gonna be planted right behind my hip. So I'd say, I know y'all don't have the best view of this, so it's like 3-4 inches behind my hip. So it's not super tight to my body, it's kind of like right here. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna drive the knees forward and drive my hips, thinking about, instead of driving my hips up, we're trying to tuck that pelvis under how we did in the beginning. So tucking it under, really squeezing the butt and reaching up towards the sky, trying to open up the chest, create some space in the shoulders. You never want to collapse into your shoulders. We always want to create space. Same thing, tucking the pelvis under, driving the knees into the ground, reaching up. You get a nice deep quad stretch if you, instead of going forward, like I said, focus on tucking under. That's where we get a lot of those great hip flexor stretches that a lot of us are trying to like search for by driving deeper into the stretch, when really what we need to do is pull the hips back. So that's something that's helped me a lot with my own hip flexors. Really maintain the tension in the glutes throughout that stretch. Nice and gentle. All right, so let's get a little bit more dynamic. I'm gonna go into a mountain climber series. So let's see what we come up with. So we're gonna start in down dog, pedaling out the ankles and the calves just a little bit to warm them up more. So what we're gonna do, after pedaling out the calves for a couple times, I'm gonna step my right foot forward, and then I'm gonna stack my shoulders as I open up into this mountain climber. And then once I get the top of this movement, I'm gonna pivot the front leg and reach. So I'm going onto that lateral edge of my foot. You'll get a better view on this one. So a couple pedals in the down dog, really push the floor away from you, spread your fingertips, still visualize lengthening through that tailbone, trying to lengthen through your spine regardless of the positional changes that we're doing. So now left foot steps outside my left hand, driving into the back heel, lengthening through the spine, pushing into the ground, pulling my neck back, make sure our neck's not hanging low. Left arm reaches up to the sky, stacking my shoulders, literally trying to see if I can open up my wingspan even a little bit more. And then I'm gonna shift onto the edges of my feet. Ooh, I'm tight on the side. Reach. Step outside your right foot. Right hand reaches up to the sky, ground yourself into the ground, or like root yourself into the ground with your feet. Twist, pivot at your feet as we drop that hip and reach. Come back to center. Pedal out those calves. Nice and gentle. Left foot steps outside left hand, lengthen through that spine, push the floor away from you. Left hand reaches up towards the sky, twist at your feet, or pivot. I feel like twist is not the right word, but it's just coming to me today. Drop that hip, don't fall into that shoulder. Reach back to center. I'm tired this morning. That one got me. My arm's tired, got me a little tired, but I'm good. Ready to do a little bit more. So let's go into My shoulders are a little tight, and I know I get tight after riding for a while because my shoulders are a little weak, or they get fatigued, okay? But let's do a shoulder roll. So on this one, I want to make sure I don't get cut off the frame because I know it ends right about here. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start with the most basic version of this, and then I'll show like 2 or maybe 3 variations. So the most beginner version of this, actually come right here. I'm gonna start with the arms wide, and I'm gonna tuck my chin, trying to create as much space on this side of the neck, and I'm gonna roll my arm over, and I'm gonna roll over the shoulder here, just like that. Not putting too much weight on the shoulder, just trying to see if I can roll onto it just a little bit. So that's variation 1. So that's for all of us that are very stiff and have a lot of tightness in our shoulders. For those of us that are a little bit more flexible and mobile in those areas, we're gonna go see if we can roll a little bit more. So this would be variant 2. And then for everybody who feels great with their shoulders, you can even do, I know I came out, do a full shoulder roll. So I'm just gonna play with them for a couple minutes. So wherever you are with your shoulder rolls, we're gonna do 1 or 2 minutes of shoulder rolls and just play with them. Remember, you don't want a lot of pressure on your neck. You're trying to open up, create distance from your neck to your shoulder, and lengthen all those tissues. And for anybody that decides to do more dynamic shoulder rolls, just gotta make sure you get your head out of the way. So you're kind of like tucking and rolling your head too. That felt good. I'm gonna do 1 or 2 more. So if you are still going, keep on going. I'm done. All right, so let's just hit the hips 1 more time. I'm gonna do a little bit more of an active warm up. So this is not something y'all might be used to if you've been training with me. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do a standing march, all right? And we're gonna do it for as long as we can. So let's just get to it. Let's start marching. And then with this, as we march, we're gonna start off with a simple march. And then as we go, we're gonna start driving the knees higher and pointing the toes. All right, so we don't have to start off pointing toes immediately, just so we can bring a little bit more focus to that midsection, but that's the goal. All right, so driving the knees as high as we can and pointing those toes actively while still maintaining that long spine. And we're gonna do contralateral movement with the arms. So that's opposite hand, opposite foot. All right, so like I said, just marching, but with those points of tension. All right, so knees high, toes pointed. I need coffee. I was gonna get coffee before this, but it didn't happen. So standing tall, driving to the ground with that base foot, bringing those knees as high as I can, actively pointing those toes. I've done marching drills before, but one of my friends as coaches, I was gonna mess up his name, Mike Salemi. I was gonna call him Coach Salemi, but that's not, I don't think anybody calls him that. But when I trained with him last, I think it was like in February or something, he had us do standing marches for like 3 minutes. And I felt so fatigued. I was like, man, this is gonna be a really tough session, but the warm up was just the worst part. But I love doing this before I cycle. Gets my core lit up,
Gets my nervous system lit up. Everything active from toes to my head to my fingertips. Gets my hip flexors lit up, ready to work. And I get sweating, which is kind of embarrassing because we shouldn't be sweating here, but it happens. Really think about driving those heels into the ground, getting those knees even higher. Point those toes. Higher knees, come on. Point those toes. All right, I can. Okay. Hope y'all have a great day. Thanks for moving with me and see you next time.